All right, if you happen to have a Bible with you, I invite you to turn to Ecclesiastes, and if you don't have one today, that's all right. We have the words will be on the screen for the particular passage we'll be looking at, and so we're going to be in Ecclesiastes chapter 9 today. Got a few more weeks in Ecclesiastes, and here, as you're turning there, as I've said before, if you're wondering Ecclesiastes, where that's at, kind of go to Proverbs and then just a little bit more to the right. Here we go. We got the question of the day for you is this. First of all, imagine with me this situation. You and a friend, or you and your husband or wife or your family, you are going on a long road trip. Okay, long. It's a beautiful day, getting in the vehicle, going on a long trip. Here's the question. Would you rather be the driver or the passenger? All right, how many of you would want to be the driver? Got to be the driver. Okay, all right, how many of you would be the passenger? Oh man, boy, a lot of passengers here, I tell you. Too many passengers. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Well, that's good, because you need both, right? Not everybody can drive. Okay, maybe let me ask you this similar question of sorts, maybe a little different, but another question is this. Would you rather be the DJ or the one on aux, as the kids say? Would you be the one that is curating the tunes? Or, and then everyone else is a slave to your folk jazz love ballads? I won't ask you to raise your hands on that one. But it's that feeling of, I've got control. And, Maddie, your music was great yesterday on the road trip, all right? Folk jazz ballads, I love them. All right, well, here we go. I got distracted there. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, here's another thing. I tried to put a stop to this, but a little while ago, and just so you know, this isn't reflective of any couples in our church that have got married in the last number of years. I'm not talking about them. Before that, there was this thing. It was infecting. No, I shouldn't say infecting. It was their decision within their vows that they were going to include kind of this, and if you've done this, it's okay, I'll forgive you, but I did try to stop this. That they were trying to include in their vows sort of a little bit of this cute, kind of kitschy sort of thing that said, these are the promises, and I promise that I'm going to let you have the remote control once a week for Dancing with the Stars. But not for The Bachelor. I hold the line. Okay, they didn't say that. But they said, I will give you the remote control. I will relinquish control. Like I said, I did try to stop that as part of their sacred vows. But in our lives, each of us, under the sun, we'll talk about that once again. That's kind of the theme throughout this book of Ecclesiastes. There is this quest for control. We want to make the decisions. We want to be in control. And that today in our culture, while we have more options at our fingertips than ever before, more choices than ever, and we have this constant companion, our phone, to help us make decisions as to where we should go, what we should eat, how we should get there, and what AI could tell us is the best possible decision that we should make based on all of the Reddit info that it has discovered. It doesn't take long in our lives to discover that life under the sun is unpredictable, often seemingly random, and that we cannot actually control outcomes. So this morning we are going to take sections of Ecclesiastes chapter 9, a bit at a time. We're going to start with verse 1 and 2, then go to 3 to 6, and then we'll skip over a bit to 11 to 12. And we're going to skip that 7 to 10, not because it's not important, but we're going to focus on that next week. And so since I'm the lead pastor and I just said I have control, that's what I'm going to do. Okay? So I just went way around all of our whole preaching plan and said this is what we're going to do. All right. So just a quick reminder, if you're new to this series in Ecclesiastes, we're calling the voice that's speaking here the preacher. It's based on the title of the book, Ecclesiastes, it's a Greek transliteration of the Hebrew word kohelet. And that means the assembler or the convener of an assembly, the preacher. And so these words that are written here for us are based on his observations, now as an older, wiser man, on all that he has seen and experienced in this life under the sun. And what he means by that, this life under the sun, is this earthly existence. This is the reality as we see it, as we can feel it, touch it, as we know it now. It's the realities that are all around us. It's what doesn't seem right. It's what doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem just at times. And also, it doesn't really account for a full understanding or what we call the biblical narrative, the framework of God at this point in his perspective. All right, so we're going to look at a few things today, talking about this idea of control. Do we have it or do we not? All right, first of all, verse 1 and 2 is going to show us that we have no control over love or hate. No control over love or hate. This is what he says, verse 1 and 2. But all this I laid to heart, examining it all, how the righteous and the wise and their deeds are in the hand of God. Whether it is love or hate, man does not know. Both are before him. It is the same for all, since the same event happens to the righteous and the wicked, to the good and the evil, to the clean and the unclean, to him who sacrifices and him who does not sacrifice. As the good one is, so is the sinner, and he who swears is as he who shuns an oath. What's he saying here? Basically this: the same stuff happens to you, to all people, regardless of whether they are good or evil. Let me give you some examples. He says you cannot control love or hate. If you had, like I had, a master plan of romance, when I was first introduced to my wife, Tanya, why did I say that with such a deep breath? I was like, my wife, 36 or so years ago, 7 years ago, I had this master plan. I was going to win her heart. I can't remember what I did, but I was going to, I remember I was going to shower. I was going to do my hair very nice. The mullet was rocking at the time. I was going to treat her kindly. I would pick her up. I did that honking thing. I did that once. I was going to sweep her off her feet. But I couldn't actually force her to love me. I couldn't. I'm very grateful that she decided that she did. But sometimes when we go into a romantic relationship of sorts, we might say, I'm going to control everything in the situation so that this person will love me. It's no guarantee. You might just come to the place where you have to recognize that she is just not into you. Can't control it. What about the weather? Can't control it. The sun shines and the rain falls on the just and the unjust. Hail hits you, no matter what. Recently, there was a hurricane in Jamaica, and we have some beautiful folks in our church with family in Jamaica. and they're all, what we hear is they're safe, but homes are damaged and destroyed. Hurricane is no respecter, righteous or unrighteous. Or how about this? Very, very practical, very relevant to us. How about that train at 43rd and Highway 3? You know, that train, that's going to make you wait regardless if you are going to church or the casino. No matter what. Or how about on one day in a cancer clinic? A stage 4 cancer diagnosis is shared with a 70-year-old chain-smoking, corrupt politician. And also with a 10-year-old little ballerina. The preacher says that while the righteous and the wise and their deeds are in the hands of God, and this is good and this is significant, he's saying circumstantially it is no guarantee of health or wealth or happiness. Now listen, there are churches and there are TV preachers that say something different. Love God, obey Him, and you'll be blessed with a prosperous life. That God wants you to be happy, healthy, and wealthy. It's your best life now. Cause and effect. Simple formula. You do this, and this will come back to you. And it sounds good, right? And I would love to agree. But the Bible. See, it didn't work out that way for John the Baptist. He got beheaded. Or Philip, who was stoned. Or the apostles who were martyred. Or the apostle Paul, pick a problem. He experienced it. Hardship and toil, prison. See, this gospel, this false gospel that's preached is a millstone around the necks of those who are drowning. See, there's millions of Christians that experience suffering, and they're being persecuted today. Millions of Christians today live in poverty. They know illness, they know pain, and they know death. And so, listen, if you're here and you're in this Christianity thing for good health and for a comfortable life, hear this very clearly. You're going to be disappointed with God. And you're going to be very disillusioned with His purposes for your life here under the sun. Secondly, the preacher goes on, he's saying, you have no control over life when you're dead. It's a very, very significant point here. Shocker, isn't it? This is what he says. This is an evil, verse 3, in all that is done under the sun, that the same event happens to all. Also, the hearts of the children of man are full of evil, and madness is in their hearts while they live. And after that, they go to the dead. But he who is joined with all the living has hope, for a living dog is better than a dead lion. For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing, and they have no more reward, for the memory of them is forgotten. Their love and their hate and their envy have already perished, and forever they have no more share in all that is done under the sun. And so the preacher here declares that death is an evil. The Apostle Paul later calls death an enemy. This shouldn't shock us, right? When someone that we know and love, care for, dies, there's something within us that says, this is wrong. This is not the way it should be. Death is a result, a consequence of the fall of man in sin that's described in Genesis chapter 3. Now, you might say, man, this preacher guy, he's kind of cranky, right? Woke up on the wrong side of the bed, or he didn't get his coffee this morning. Cranky preachers, what's up with that? But he says humans, they're full of evil, and then they die. How are you all doing? Are we feeling good? Feeling good? Okay. Then he quotes this proverb. It says, better a living dog than a dead lion. Now, when we read this, oftentimes we say, oh, a dog, like a puppy. And we have this idea of this little cute, puppy, this little purse dog or something. And, it's just like, oh, it's a living dog. This wasn't the picture that the preacher had in mind. This wasn't the picture of a dog in the Israelite culture. A dog was basically like a large rodent, a scavenger. This is the picture of a dog, this mangy, kind of flea-infested animal. It's interesting when we take trips down to Mexico, down the Baja, and we stop at different places or in the community that we serve in. There's dogs running around, feral dogs, right? And when we get off the plane, there's always one person in the group. This is a little heads-up warning for this next group. Don't do this, but someone that's wandering on the street and they see a dog and they, oh, a dog, a puppy, and then the dog, of course, comes running over, and they're like playing with the dog, and then the missionary that's with us or some of the locals, they're like, what is this person doing? Playing with this dog that's like drooling, frothing at the mouth, or it's just this flea-infested thing, this mangy mutt. That's the picture of the dog. What about the lion? Well, the lion is this picture of majesty, king of the jungle. But what is he saying? He says, one is dead and one is alive. He's saying, that mangy dog, that mutt, is still breathing. And because he's still breathing, he's still got hope. There's no hope for the dead lion. See, he says, the living know that they will die. Do you know this today? See, you can ignore it. You can say, I'm invincible. But within you, deep within you, I think, is this realization. We see it on the news. We see it in our families. We've known people that have died. And it's not just old people like Kimbal. When I was 15 years old, living on a farm in Saskatchewan, I got the news that an 18-year-old in our farming community, a young man, was killed in a rollover accident. I remember sitting under my favorite tree in the shade on this hot day, confronted with death of someone that I knew, someone that was not much older than me. And it shook me, and it brought fear to me. And into that, I stepped in this fear of dying myself, fear of my parents dying, and I went through that for a long time. But it caused me to go, my life is not as solid. I'm not in control as much as I might think. A friend of mine drowned scuba diving when he was 24. Almost 30 years ago. I've told you various times about my friend Nadine, who was an apparently healthy young adult. She was 19, went hiking, had a pain in her back, got it tested, found out she had leukemia. And it was 6 months from diagnosis to when she passed into the arms of Jesus. The preacher says that the dead, they know nothing. They have no more share in what is done under the sun. He's saying they have no more choice on what their life is about. Hebrews 9:27 echoes this. It says, man is destined to die once and then face judgment. You have no control over life when you're dead. Third and finally, you have no control over success. Look at verse 11 to 12. Again, I saw that under the sun, the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor bread to the wise, nor riches to the intelligent, nor favor to those with knowledge, but time and chance happen to them all. For man does not know his time, like fish that are taken in an evil net, and like birds that are caught in a snare, so the children of man are snared at an evil time. when it suddenly falls upon them. So our human nature, or our pride within us, it seeks to be successful. We want to be the best. We compare ourselves to others. We want to be the top of the class. But the wise old preacher, he considers what he has observed in life, and he says, you know what, it is unpredictable. There's no guarantees. Stuff happens in life. You know, he says the fastest runner doesn't always win the race. Now, if I lined up with Usain Bolt, okay, let's picture this. We could make this like an outreach event or something. It'd be cool. But, Usain Bolt, and we say, we're going to have a race and see how Kimbal does against Usain Bolt. Now, Usain, he's not the fastest guy, I don't think, in the world anymore, and he's probably, put on a little bit of weight. And I'm thinking, what do you think? Do you think I got a shot? No, very no. Odds are that he would beat me, even on my best day. And no, I haven't started running. But if you said to me, Kimbal, it's 1 in a million, I might say, so you're telling me there's a chance. He could trip. He could be stretching out and all of a sudden, pull the groin muscle. Lightning could strike. I mean, who knows? You're still not convinced that I could take him. But strange things happen. The best don't always win. And yes, I'm going to bring up the Blue Jays. Any given day. Now we know the Dodgers were favored to win. But it was there for the taking, right? The Blue Jays should have won. Then, off an incredible, solid hit. What happens? The ball gets stuck in the wall? Stuff happens. The strongest warrior doesn't always win the battle. It could be even someone that's coming at you, and it seems like you are outmatched. Chapter 10, verse 8 in Ecclesiastes, it says, "He who digs a pit may fall into it, and whoever breaks through a wall may be bitten by a snake." So someone's out to get you, and they're laying a trap for you, and they dig a pit for you to fall into, and all of a sudden they fall into it. Or they're breaking into your house and your fence. Southern Alberta, there's rattlesnakes. Come on. Could happen. Gets bitten by a snake. It's just saying there's stuff that happens. There's no guarantee, even though you're faster, you're stronger, you're smarter. Like a fish in a net or a bird in a snare, something suddenly comes upon you at a time when you least expect it. The most intelligent person doesn't always get rich or get the best job. What happens? Life is what he's saying. What he calls time and chance. The word for chance here, it's not like luck. It's just like someone's lucky, someone's fortunate, someone's not. The idea is more of an occurrence. Like maybe an old term would be like happenstance. Something it just happens. Unpredictable event. Unpredictable from our limited under the sun perspective. We've read about this, we've heard about this. Some people that ended up in the Twin Towers on 9/11, the day of the terrorist attack, they ended up there and they were not planning to be there. Others were late that day. They got sick. They missed the train. Or you have a business plan and everything seems right. You've done the market analysis and you decide you're going to open a bakery with your Oma's famous rollkuchen recipe. If you don't know what rollkuchen is, someone should do this. But you decide to do this, But then a worldwide pandemic hits. Unexpected, unpredictable. Or you're walking down the steps at camp just when the new wash crew washes the floor with too much water. And you fall down the stairs and you break your toe. Ask Tanya about that. That's just... These happenstances, things that just occur in life. Some could bring ill, or some could bring good from our perspective. A few occasions in the Bible we see this idea of it just so happened. And we see in Ruth, there's this Moabitess, this woman who she just happens to come across Boaz. In Esther, a Jewish teenager just happens to become queen. In the Good Samaritan parable, the Samaritan just happens to come across the man beaten in the ditch. In the book of Acts, an Ethiopian eunuch just happens to bump into Philip. It seems that these occurrences, as we look at them now, might be actually orchestrated by a sovereign God. So, having heard that life is unpredictable and we do not have control that we desire or expect, how do we apply our lives to this teaching today? Here's the gospel grasp. See, the vanity, or this hebel, this air mist that he's been talking about under the sun, this perspective, it points us to a faith reality that's right before us that we need to see. It points us, first of all, to the truth. Number one is that God desires our holiness more than our happiness. It's what God desires of us. It's not that he's against our happiness, just that's not his end goal for us. That's not his point. His desire is that we would be transformed into the image of Jesus. His desire is that the love or the hate, the good or the bad circumstances that we experience in this life, they're either allowed by God or directed by God, that they would be used to shape us and sanctify us. And even the sinful consequences, our choices, those things would call us and cause us to turn to God. He desires our holiness more than our happiness. 2 Corinthians 12, verse 9 to 10, the Apostle Paul says, "But he said to me, 'My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong.'" Secondly, this points to the reality that we have this opportunity right now to respond to God's invitation in this moment because we're alive, we're breathing. And so this opportunity right now is within your control. Right now. Now, I don't intend this to be a fear tactic. It's a reality tactic. Stats indicate that on average, 925 Canadians die every day in Canada. It's a reality. And so in this moment, right now, you're sitting here, you have life and breath. You have this control to say, "God, I will surrender my life to you." In Luke 14, in the parable of the great banquet, Jesus tells a story about a man who prepares this great banquet. He invites all these guests, and they all declined for various reasons. The man then told his servant to go out and invite the poor, the crippled, the blind, and the lame instead. But there was still more room, and so the servant was instructed to invite anyone that he could find from the streets that would come to fill the house. The table was ready. Just need people to come and sit and be here in the banquet. Now, this invitation to come to the Lord's banquet comes to you and me. Mangy, sinful dogs that we are. We hear the invitation to come. Today, you and I have breath. Will we respond and come to him and his table? Thirdly, it points us to this truth, that your confidence and your trust must be placed in the one who has sovereign control over your life. And by that we say that all things, all occurrences, all happenstances, all things that are unpredictable of our life are in the hands of God. This unpredictable life, it calls us to surrender. That means relinquishing our elusive desire to control. We relinquish that to God. It's saying, God, I'm not the driver. I'm a passenger. And it's not just having God as the passenger and giving control when times get tough. It's offering your heart, your desires, your ambitions. See, you can keep your hands on the wheel and you can keep white-knuckling it for a long time. Stressed out, anxious, fighting for control that you will never have, or you can release it. Even in questioning, even in uncertainty of God's plans. But in the midst of that, you can receive the peace of God. I want you to hear this, that this isn't just relinquishing control to this God who's orchestrating everything because he has the power to do this. But if you read the story, you know the story is that God taking on flesh in Jesus, he relinquished control. He put his life into the hands of sinful men, and out of his love for us, he laid down his life for us. Would you surrender your life to a God like this? Would you relinquish this tight rein on your life that it isn't possible anyways? And would you submit it to a holy, righteous God who loves you? To say, God, I trust you, and I'll give you my affection and my worship because you've proven yourself worthy of it.